Welcome everyone. I hope you are doing good. My name is Sujit and I will be your host for today. I have Kumudni with me to moderate the chat. Today we bring to you the fourth session from HR Tech Integration Masterclass series. In the series so far, we have talked about seamless integration of learning management systems, learning experience platform, the challenges that one may encounter in making HR data ready for analytics, and also understood integration scenarios between different talent acquisition platforms to automate candidate workflows. For today's session, how to expand your recruitment database with job board integrations, we will focus on integration scenarios between ATS, HRIS, and candidate sourcing platforms. With that, let me move on to introduce our speakers for the event. The session will be delivered by Parag Pradhan and Maheshkumar Kharade. Mahesh, as few of you may know, has been a speaker for all the webinars of this series. He possesses extensive core technology expertise in integrations. Parag is a sales leader with extensive experience in envisioning and driving HR technology solutions based on digital and emerging technologies. With that, let me invite Parag to begin the session. Parag, over to you.
Thank you, Sujit. So let's take a look at the sources of candidates that recruiters have at their disposal. Their go-to source is, of course, their own candidate database, which in turn can be populated from a variety of sources. Candidate sources requires proactively searching for and engaging qualified candidates for current or soon to be open positions. Sourcing from multiple channels opens up a large amount of talent for you. The quality of a company's database has a huge impact on the overall hiring pipeline, as well as the choice of and the relevancy of candidates. Let's take a look at the company career site. This is hosted by almost every company and is expected to be the primary channels to promote positions. It is also linked to the ATS and HRI systems, which can then publish these positions to career sites. Next up is our job boards. And some examples of job boards are Monster, Indeed, Career Builder, and so on. Job boards as a channel for candidate sourcing has proven to be very successful. By utilizing job boards for your open positions, you increase the chances of finding skilled and experienced talent. Best of all, it helps to discover talent from unexpected sectors, which you may not have found without a job board. Employee referral portals is the next one. These can be either hosted by a company or can be third-party portals. Employee referral programs are a very important source of candidate since employees act as company ambassadors, reducing the friction in the recruiting process from the start. Employees too have an upside and they are rewarded for each successful hire. New hires from this channel are oftentimes a better cultural fit, are more engaged, productive from the start, and are less likely to leave. Going forward, social media is a big area of candidate sourcing. Some sites are, of course, LinkedIn. And in a recent survey from LinkedIn, 43% of recruiters reported that professional social networks were their top source of new candidates, ranking above job boards even. Over 90% of all recruiters now use social networking sites in their recruitment process. It also has lower costs and a higher rate of return. Recruiters can communicate with potential talent quickly, faster, better, and the candidates can respond immediately as well. Acceptance rates have seen to be much higher among applicants who share common interests. Moving forward, there are niche job posting sites like eFinancial Careers or eHealth Careers. Niche job boards are generally smaller job boards that are location or industry focused. The industry focus of these boards helps to target job advertisements towards qualified candidates for that particular niche area. Niche job boards attract specific candidates that possess specialized skills and are more relevant to the job offered. And finally, there is career candidate relationship management platforms. These are platforms that can capture historical interactions with candidates. It's basically a method for managing and improving relationships with current and potential future job candidates. It helps track conversations with candidates, and it's a huge time saver, removing the back and forth of managing spreadsheets and running other manual processes. So as you can see, all these tools and techniques are used by recruiters during their day-to-day activities. This also means that they're using 4 to 5 different applications and may need to repeat a lot of work across these platforms in the absence of robust integrations. Let's take a look at some of the integration scenarios that we have encountered. Oh, prior to that, we're going to do a quick poll to see how the audience uses these various sources for their recruiting needs. Sujit, can you launch the poll, please?
Sure, Parag. Here we go. Hope the poll is on screen. Yeah, so we have started receiving the votes.
Well, so far, they are pretty even as far as company career side. Well, social media is upticking. Employee referral portal is up there as well.
Yeah, closing the poll in next 5 seconds. We almost have 90% have voted. Yeah, closing the poll.
Excellent. So as you can see, several of these are essentially neck and neck with, job boards, also, pretty much up there with all the other sources of candidates. So let's take a look at, you can go ahead and close the poll at this time, Sujit.
Yes, I have.
Okay, perfect. So then taking a look at the common scenarios that we've encountered in our integration work with job boards. First up is the post side, which is posting jobs. The common flow is from the ATS to the job boards or any other sourcing tools. Any new jobs or updates will be shared by the ATS and the HRIS system once created by the recruiters. This is available through APIs or job feeds, and the sync usually happens periodically. This is a very simple one-way integration where the job is transferred over to the job board. The next step is the job application submission, which is the apply side. So whenever a candidate is interested in a job posting, they can submit an application. This integration can be based on the sourcing tool. So for example, social media sites may prefer to redirect candidates to a page from the ATS or the career site to apply for the job. On the other hand, a job board can offer a quick apply functionality with a simple, easy apply feature. This integration can be one-way or two-way based on the support of platforms involved. Sometimes the status of the job applications can be posted back to the sourcing site, such as the referral portal can keep track of the stage of the progress of the referred candidate. And then we have screening questions. So screening questions enable the candidate experience to become much easier so that these questions are asked proactively versus the candidate having to go back to the job board or go back to the application in the process. These are basic questions that are used by recruiters to filter applications at an early stage. Primarily set in the ATS, but some of the sourcing tools now offer an interface, and these can be linked to the job at the time of application. It's important to sync these questions using an API-based approach. Sourcing tools have a mechanism to evaluate candidates' answers and take the appropriate steps, or these answers can then be submitted back to the ATS to get some results. And this involves a two-way data transfers. And finally, there is candidate recommendation or candidate search for recruiters. So both ATS and HRIS and sourcing tools now have started providing the abilities to match candidates against open job positions. For example, job boards now offer an API-based search functionality so that ATS and HRIS systems can enable recruiters to search for passive candidates. This helps recruiters become more effective, as well as avoid duplication of candidates in case they're using more than one sourcing tool. Recruiters can also begin the process of filling open position soon to be open positions proactively. Let's take a look at a video from a marquee customer, Monster, on their challenges and the outcomes from integrations.
Parag, I'm not able to hear the video.
Yeah, neither am I. So,
hi, I'm Jesse. I'm an Alliance
Yes.
Partner Man.
Perfect. Thank you.
We're all about helping people and employers find the right fit, something that recruiters today know can be quite a big challenge. With the evolving modern workforce and diverse HR technology ecosystems, there's a lot of factors that add complexity. Now, one consistent trend that I see is that all of these solutions need to work together, and most importantly, they need to be seamless for prospective talent. I'm sure at this point, most of you have easy ways to send jobs out to job boards, other talent hubs like Monster, which can help recruiters a lot, but it's equally important to help the talented people that live on those platforms send applications back. These connections are, they're two-way streets. So anyway, here's some things to consider. The typical career site or ATS application process takes a candidate 30 to 40 minutes. The average completion rate for candidates that start that process is 20% if you're lucky. So that's 80% abandonment and more on mobile, simply due to the process, right? Add to that, some of the most talented people are the least likely to go through a laborious application. They're in demand, so they just don't have to. So if you're a recruiter, what do? If you're an ATS or CRM, how can you help your recruiters? At Monster, we worked with Harbinger as well as directly with partners to implement a seamless API-based connector so that not only can jobs publish in real time, but top talent can also apply to those jobs with ease. So that's great, right? Maybe? Well, here's what I'm seeing. By reducing the friction for candidates in this way, jobs are optimized for mobile, which is over 50% of our traffic. Employer brand perception improves among applicants going through the new flow. The performance of paid jobs increases up to 350%. And data on reporting, source attribution becomes even more reliable. All of this reduces the cost and time to hire and improves the functionality of every technology involved. So there you have it. And this is the last bit, I know. It may seem like a no-brainer to do these things, and I'm sure many of you are sitting there thinking about your already full roadmaps. So if you want to connect with Monster, just remember, Harbinger can help. You just have to let us know. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thank you, Maheshkumar. So let's take a quick look at the customer situation that Monster faced when they approached us. So as you know, it's one of the leading job board vendors. It hosts millions of candidate resumes that are searchable through an efficient search API. There was a need for robust integration with leading ATS and HRIS vendors for the very reason that Jesse mentioned. There was an increasing demand from recruiters to enable seamless access and proactive searchability. And then the integration approach was to go beyond synchronization of job positions and really bring in easy apply as well as candidate search for recruiters. So given this situation, we had a solution as well as workflow laid out for Monster, which Maheshkumar is going to walk us through for the rest of this webinar. Maheshkumar, over to you.
Thank you, Parag. As rightly described by Parag, what our customer was looking for, let me take you through the workflow details now. So out of 4 scenarios described by Parag, I think 3 are very much applicable in this particular case when we worked with Monster. So let's start with the integration that is essentially triggered by the periodic process. Periodic synchronization of job positions that are sort of opened by recruiter into the ATS platform. So that's where they end up creating those jobs, and those needs to be synced with the job board in the background. So this is where the integration process makes use of the GATE API from the ATS or the HRIS platform, and keep checking for the job updates at certain interval, and sends those updates to the job board using respective API that Monster provides. So the next integration scenario is about the candidate recommendation and the job application submissions. Now, Monster application has a unique set of search APIs, which enables recruiter to sort of search for the matching candidates for the open positions that they have. So whenever there is a new job position that connector syncs between the ATS and the job board, it also extracts the key information about that job and sends a query to the search API in the Monster and gets the top matching results. Now, this is where the connector also stores the configuration to decide on how many matching candidates should be fetched from the Monster, so that based on the customer configuration, it can sort of get those matching candidates from Monster and add them into the candidate pool of the ATS in case that's how it is handled, or submit them as a job applications for respective open job position. So this is how the overall integration flow is. Now, I would like to quickly talk about the implementation details here. So here I'm using just one of the connector implementation to provide the insights into the overall backend. But please note that this connector supports most of the leading ATS and HRIS platforms to integrate with the job board. So as you can see, there are three key components in this solution. The first one is ATS, where it is iCIMS, which provides certain set of APIs that are utilized to implement a workflow that we have discussed on the last slide. Next is the job board, which is Monster. There are also certain set of APIs that are used to support the required functionality. And then the central piece, which is the connector, which makes this data transfer happen. Now, I'll not go into the details of each and every component that you see on the screen, but let me quickly talk about the key ones here. So the task scheduler you see is essentially responsible for managing the background jobs that are handling the data sync at certain intervals. Now, the processor components that you can see are taking the responses from the APIs as an input, and it would convert it into the format that the APIs on the other side would understand. Some of the other components are essential to the implementation of the overall flow that we discussed on the last slide. So this sort of covers it for one of the ATS, but while doing it for multiple ATS and HRIS platforms, we came across certain challenges. So I would like to kind of share some of the key ones so that it sort of gives you an idea about how the whole process went about it. So to start with, let's discuss about the variation in the API support. Now, every ATS or HRIS platform offers APIs which can be used for the integrations. The only catch here is that every API has its own data format and field names and so on. I mean, there are so many other factors. So during this implementation, we have to handle all such variations as we started sort of adding support for more and more number of platforms as the customer demand increased. Next challenge is about the mechanism to be followed to sync the actual data. Now, example we discussed on the earlier side is where we are making use of the periodic sync option, but some of the ATS or HRIS vendors also offer support for webhooks. Now, webhook mechanism enables data sync at real time, which sort of helps in further enhancing the user experience, right? So important point to note here is many a times, even though webhook implementation is in place, it also makes use of scheduler based sync as a fallback action. This is essentially recommended so that the combination would help in avoiding any kind of data loss that may occur, because in case the webhook is not ready or the API is not ready to get the input or the call and so on. So at the connector level, now based on the platform being integrated, it has to be, when the connector has to ensure that it's making use of the most suitable approach. Moving on, the next challenge is about how candidate recommendations are handled on the ATS or HRIS side. Now, some of the platforms prefer to add such recommendations to the candidate pools, and some of the platforms handle them like job applications. Now, based on the underlying support, connector workflow changes, right? So that's where adding a support for multiple ATS and HRI platforms, connector had to sort of make provisions to support all these combinations or the variations. Now let's take a look at the next challenge, which is, I think, which Parag did cover while discussing about different integration scenarios. So that is a need to sync data either one way or two way. Now it really depends on two critical aspects is what I would say. So first one is in the given workflow, what support a target platform API offers. And then the second is the customer demand. Let me give an example here. In case of candidate recommendations, some of the customers also requested to have an ability to track the current stage of the candidate on both sides of the integration. Now, this is where the connector needed to support such variations and customization requests. Now, when you look at all this in the context of a specific customer or an ATS, it may look simple. But imagine integration with, say, 20 or different systems being used by a few hundreds of customers. At this scale, supporting customer-specific customization becomes a real challenge. And with this, I think that's where the approach and how you do the connector is really important. So with this, I think we have looked at all the key challenges that this integration requirement had. And I think anyone who is trying to do something similar would face all these challenges, I'm sure about that. So now that's why it's the time to understand how we can address some of these challenges and how we actually handle them while implementing this project. And that's sort of, I'm calling them as a best practices that we can consider while doing these integrations. So the one thing is, before I do that, one thing I would like to highlight is, though the cases we discussed so far focuses on just integration of job boards with multiple ATS and HRIS platforms, these best practices and recommendations are applicable to most of the HR integration scenarios that you may encounter. So let's discuss them one by one. So first one is the selection of a right integration model. Now, this selection plays a vital role in how quickly you can scale your integration beyond few ATSs or HRIS platforms. As I mentioned, we did it for multiple ATS and HRISs in this particular case. One can start with point-to-point connector, but as number of platform increase, this strategy needs to be revisited. So that's why it's important you make those decisions at early stage or as soon as you have that visibility. Next is the use of modular architecture. Now, by having well-designed components for your connector, it always helps you in reusing these components for the future integrations. Modular design also plays important role in handling variations with respect to APIs or requirements and all of that in a better way. And it also reduces the overall complexity of the connector. Then comes the light middleware approach. Now, you might have noticed that the connector component from solution slide is only responsible for enabling the data transfer between both sides. It's not storing any kind of data or not having any part of the business logic into it. This helps in keeping connector design simple and focused on the core objective, that is integration. Next is about schema mapping. Now, one of the challenges we discussed is about variation in the API design. So providing an ability to map the schema without frequent code change is really important. And that's something we can achieve using having that mapping abilities as a part of the configuration options. And the last one in the list is like having options for different configurations. Now, this helps in addressing a lot of customization needs as well as in giving more control back to end users to tune their own connector in their own way. I think with this, we have covered all the key aspects of the integration with different sourcing tools by using an example of job board. I hope you found this information useful. Now I'd like to take a pause and open it up for the questions.
Yes, Mahesh, so we already have the question. You talked about the integration with multiple ATS and hundreds of customers using same connector. Can you help me understand how this is achieved?
So when I talked about the connector piece, that's sort of a piece of the solution. When we design it to be work in the multi-tenant way. So if you look at either job boards or any other HR applications nowadays, they all offer multi-tenant capabilities where the application can sort of support multiple clients through the single instance or using the SaaS model. Now the connector also operates in the same way where once we develop a connector, let's take an example of ICM and Monster. Once it is done for one customer, it's a matter of configuration for other ICM customers to use it. So that way the connector is able to understand like for which customer it is doing certain tasks based on certain configurations and the way we design it, and it can take care of the data flow that is supposed to happen. So in a way, what we are saying is you build it once for a given ATS or HRIS platform, and then you can use it for all other customers using the similar application. So that's how we are able to support the combination I mentioned, where it is done for a certain number of platforms and then it is used by hundreds of customers thereafter.
Yeah. Next question we have is, can you please share any more information on integration of employee referral portals with ATS?
So like what we have seen recently, I would say over the last couple of years is that employers have started seeing a value in using employee referrals as a primary channel to get qualified and better candidates. And that's where some of the platforms have come up where they help you sort of get open job positions from ATS and then reach out to your own employee pool and then figure out, help them understand who could be the possible referrals, and then essentially assist employees in getting those referrals into the platform with which recruiters can work and see if they can be the probable candidates for the given job opportunity. So this is where the integration plays a key role, because there are data elements like jobs, job postings, candidates, the job applications, the status of at what stage the candidate has reached. So all of that, if these systems are not connected, then it sort of creates a lot of manual work for the recruiters to update both the platforms, as well as for the employees, because they don't have a single system to look at like what happened to the referrals they have submitted. So that's where the integration is essential, and we have done certain number of integrations in the given space as well.
Okay, yeah. So how do you handle data security aspects while transferring data using connector?
I think that's a very good question, I would say, because like when you look at any HR application, it's always worried about, or the end users are always worried about how their data is protected, right? So that's why I think one of the best practice I mentioned is about keeping your connector really lightweight and focus more on the data transfer and not really worry about the business logic or how you handle the data, how you store the data and all of that. So in the given scenario, what happens is connector is not storing any data with it. I mean, it just depends on the API that makes the call, it transfers the data. Even the error handling is done in a way that it is not holding back any critical information, be it about jobs, candidates, anything of that sort it is trying to transfer. So with that kind of a mechanism in place, connector essentially is playing a role of a middleware and not controlling the data, not storing the data. So indirectly it takes care of the security aspect, because it just makes sure that whatever data is in transit is encrypted and no one can look into it. Apart from that, it doesn't need to go beyond any other considerations that a typical SaaS platform may have to.
Thanks, Mahesh. So this would be our last question considering time we have. So your connector has a component as credential UI or something like that. What's the use of that component?
Okay, so I think this relates back to the first question, which talked about the multi-tenancy aspect or how you handle it for multiple customers. So this is where this user interface comes into the picture, where we give an ability to the end users to define like details about their environment, the API details, the keys, and all of that, which essentially connector makes use of during the integration process. So that's why that component is essential, which helps us give that configurability outside the connector as a part of the core application. So the end users are not even aware of the connector piece that works in the background. And that's why we have called it out as a part of our solution.
Thanks, Mahesh. Thank you to all our participants for taking the time out for today's webinar. We hope it was an insightful session. We will arrange for the webinar recording to be sent across to you. And in case you have any follow-up questions, please do drop us a line at hsinfo@harbingergroup.com, and we would be more than happy to answer them for you. Wish you all the best of health. Stay safe.